Hey y'all, welcome back to Ascending with Ashley. I'm Ashley. I'm a little stoic today, so if you're waiting to see the upbeat me, I don't know if she's gonna come out during this or not. I'll be back later. Um, oh, that was a lot. Um, what I do want to share though, because it's birthday week, for me. If it's your birthday week, happy birthday week. I've been sent on a couple side quests in regards to my own journey this week, which is why I haven't really been super present over here. I've been kind of doing some really intense work for my own bloodline. And last night, I got. So, I've been listening to that song, that Runaway song by Aurora all week, and I think I manifested some, like, information about me. One thing about my life, I'm gonna keep this my story. If it resonates with you, that's great, but I'm not trying to place this on anyone else, okay? One thing about my life is that I've always felt very nomadic. I've always been searching for a space of home, like my whole life. And I've shared a lot about this week, just talking about growing up, being at my friends' houses, doing my own damn thing. I've moved a fuck ton in my life. I've never really put roots down. And then now that I do have land in this country, like land ownership, and I really want to put roots down on behalf of my son. I'm getting a lot of information about where I come from. One thing about my family, my father's side of the family used to take us to old cemeteries when we were growing up, and I was like way too young. I didn't have any appreciation for this shit when they were trying to teach me. But last night I started working on a family tree, and I started looking into my own genealogy. Now, this is something that my family, I have two aunts on both sides, my mother's side and my father's side, who have done a fuck ton of genealogy work with like Ancestry.com and family documents that have been passed down. But they really don't. Every time I've asked to see this information in my family, that's when they kind of swoop in and tell me I'm psychotic or I'm in psychosis or like you don't need to know that. And it just comes from this like deep need to know who I am and like, you know, um, and as a white woman in America right now, I think this is why I don't want to make this over sweeping generalization, but I think a lot of other people who don't have connection to their roots, this goes beyond race though. People who don't have connection to their roots, like for instance, those who were uprooted and brought over, right, as well, or brought over or came over, whatever lineage you have within your bloodline, if you have this place of like missing within you, and I resonate with that, first of all, but I feel like a lot of conflict that we find ourselves in, whether it's interpersonal relationships, family, personal, work, whatever. I don't know. Have you guys ever heard of let me finish that thought and then I have like a million other thoughts. Okay. So I feel like that can be a driving force for douchebagness, for lack of a better word. Is when people don't know who the fuck they are, and so they just like constantly project. So right now, as you can hear, I'm listening to the theme song of Outlander, and I started watching Outlander a few months ago, but the last couple episodes of the first season really, really, really triggered me. If you've never watched the show, we do spoilers over here. There's very intense sexual torture scenes, incarceration, and other things, and it took me months to be able to watch this show again. And so I started watching a little bit this morning, but I was listening to this last night and I just broke down. Like I had like multiple breakdowns. come to find out, my father's side, which I've been communicating with my father's mother, she's the one that, if you were here for the other story time on the life recap, she's the one I made that book for, that black book. She has Scottish. She goes back to Scottish. Now, I always knew that there was Scottish ancestry in my blood. But I'm finally starting to break it down, and I'm not paying for Ancestry.com. I do live in a Mormon town, though, so if I honestly want to go see some stuff, I don't know if you know this, but Mormons have, like, the genealogy information. They've got, like, everything in caves and shit. And my student that I had this fall when I was doing the esoterics course was an ex-Mormon, and she told me about some of the things that she's been to and, like, some of the archives and stuff. But anyway, as I start this, so I have Scottish on both sides of my... And so anyway, I'm watching Outlander because I think there is some historical context. And right before I left for my master's degree, I remember my aunt was watching Outlander, and it had just started. And she, they were, like, paid for HBO or whatever. But, like, then I left for my master's degree, and I was, like, all hopped up on pharmaceuticals at that point in my life, and from the doctors. Macklemore's My Drug Dealer Was a Doctor. You should listen to that song. But anyway, I finally feel connected to who I am. And so I was, like, watching, like, landscapes, and I started following all of these folks on TikTok about Scottish. But, like, just looking at the landscapes and stuff last night, it was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And also, I know that I received my magic from that has been coming through a lot in the past few weeks, because I've just been kind of exploring these things intentionally, but also, like, a little unconsciously, like, until last night when I got this information. So, baby daddy's family was brought over here, so I'm still figuring this out. But there was a time in the downtown LA library, there's a big genealogy, there's, like, drawers of last names and surnames and stuff, and I started looking into that stuff, but I don't know, every time I try to do this, someone stops me. And so I finally feel like I did reach out to one of my aunts last night to see, and let her know. I'm like, I'm just interested in my grandma's lineage, if you can help me with that. They probably won't. They're probably gonna, red flag the rest of the family and be like, she's asking about stuff. But, like, I deserve to know. And the thing about it is like, my dad tried to tell me when he was alive, but I was too little. They took us to the cemeteries. They told us the stories. They told us everything. But because I've disowned my family, and because I've gone off the path that what they've done, they don't really tell me anything. And I'm not trying to be like a victim. I'm just letting you know that last night I had some really beautiful revelations about where my power and magic comes from, and why my mother's side of the family, why they haven't been able to take me out, because they've been trying. There's a coven. My mother and her two sisters, and my sister for sure. Whether it's unintentional evil eye or legit doing spells or hiring people to do it, there's definitely malicious intent on that side of the family. And I've been harmed, but, like, not to the extent that they wanted. So I feel like that's because of my grandma Jean. And the thing about her, she has this box. So she worked in admissions at University of Colorado, or maybe it was University of Denver. I don't know. It was somewhere in that state. But she worked in the international admissions department, and so she has this box. My grandma Jean was definitely a magical motherfucker, and she would stand up to her husband, my grandpa, who was the racist one, like the really bad racist one. Anyway, she made this box when she worked at admissions, And it has all of these stamps from all over the world. And these was back in the 20 cents. Oh, look, there's Gandhi. But, like, no one else in my family has an appreciation like this for culture. So this is one of my prized possessions, and what's funny is look what's in here. I have a witch tarot deck. I have candles, Venice beach jar with some seashells, and crystals, which is great because I was looking for these crystals. I didn't know where I put them. Found them. But anyway, I just wanted to share because I'm really feeling like I'm connecting to me, because I've always had a resonance of some sort with the Pacific Northwest, even though I've never been there. And even like I live close to Flagstaff, and in Georgia too. For some reason, Flagstaff gives me vibes of like Georgia, and like the trees, and also of Chicago. I don't know, there's a vibe. But anyway, it makes a lot of sense because I was looking at like the Scottish landscapes, and it's so fucking green and rainy, and like my soul sounds like this song. Like I was literally listening to this song on repeat. I found a good repeat one. So anyway, I hope my family will give me information, but let me share this. So my grandparents, my direct grandparents, Scottish, and all I did was look up the surnames, like the root of the surnames of the last names. So if you have your last names, if you're someone who is seeking, where are you from, you know? All of this really came about because a couple of months ago, I was talking to a Navajo person here in Arizona, and he said something to me about how he left for a while, but then he came back, and he's like, I just laid in the dirt when I got home. He's like, I was home, you know? I just laid in the dirt, and it was like my dirt. And when he said that, I was like, wow. I'm like, this is gonna sound really weird, but like I've been looking for that feeling that you just shared with me for my whole life. Like I don't know what home is. I don't know where that is for me. And I don't think that, so anyway, my grandfather, Jean's husband, was Scottish, German, and English. So I'm gonna have to know who about their parents and, you know, build the tree back up. But I want to get this done for Niall, especially because he is half black. I want to do some research. I tried to do a lot of research, but then Dogon's parents both passed away when we first got married. But I definitely want to do that. I need to write down his mother's maiden name before I forget. I think that Ancestry.com and 23andMe can be scams, but I think that if you do get information from those, take it with a grain of salt for the most part. But anyway, Vernon, like I did Dogon, I gave Dogon a gift for like one of our Christmases together, and I got him 23andMe and Ancestry.com testing kits, and they both came back with different results. That's why I say that. He is a black man, so his roots again are pretty much unknown, and so with his ancestors being taken from their land and brought over, it's inconclusive, right, where they actually came from, because they didn't document that stuff on purpose, right? So anyway, on my mother's side, we have Welsh and English on her father's side. And then my grandmother, I had to look at my grandmother's obituary because I don't know her, I didn't know her maiden name. So I learned that last night. I found her obituary. She has a brother, and so I'm assuming that her brother's last name was her maiden name. I could be wrong, but according to that, she has Swiss and German ancestry. So I knew about the German and Scottish and English, But watching Outlander is super fascinating because there's so much conflict between the English and Scottish. And like I said, my grandma was a little bit of a rebel. And so I really feel like I've just been communicating with her a lot lately. I'm a medium. My family has really criminalized that part of me for my life, which is another reason why they don't actively support me researching my genealogy and ancestry, because I already know things that a lot of people don't know in my family because it's just a direct line of communication. But anyway, I'm feeling very rooted in my Scottish lineage. And it's giving me, even though that's only one country out of all of these others, I'm a medicine woman, you know? And so, like, watching Outlander, watching these women practice herbs. I did learn yesterday because, like I said, I looked up Scottish and learning about the history and stuff. And I did learn that the Scottish did have one of the largest witch burnings in the 1600s. And it's just an interesting thing. I've been wearing braids in my hair a lot lately too, and just more interested in like Celtic gods and goddesses and tradition, as well as Norse. I'm really tapping into my European genealogy, especially as someone who is fighting for liberation. I think it's important to fight for your own, or at least understand why. For me, why is there a drive to do so intensely, especially when I'm the only one in my family? But I feel like my grandmother knew. I feel like my grandmother and my father. So I connected with both of them. My father used to like, I'm pretty sure my dad was autistic and just never diagnosed because he was a boomer. But my dad would just sit in like this, in our living room, and we had these big speakers and this big speaker set, and he would listen to music really loudly and like just with his eyes closed, and it was his disassociating. It was his. And so that's what I was doing last night with this song, and I just felt, like I said, the tears and like everything came through, and it felt like this revelation I had last night was like, I've cleared enough curses in my family to be given this information, because they know I will protect it. And I'm really happy that this is falling a few days before my birthday so that I can walk confidently in this next year of my life and leave everything behind. Like all of the things, all of these stories I've shared over here, all of these things, I can leave it behind because I now have that connection that feels most relevant to me. Right? Don't get me wrong, I know I have all of these other countries in me as well, but I feel very, very drawn to my Scottish ancestry. Like the bagpipes. This all started because I saw some guy on TikTok playing bagpipes. And my dad used to love bagpipes, and I was like, you know, I was a punk. But listening to the music, it transported me, like my soul. And it was just like, from there I started listening to this song, because when I first, like I said, I don't know if I ever finished this thought, when I first started my master's degree, I was obsessed with this song. I listened to it all the time, and I did not know I was autistic. I was going off my pharmaceuticals. Well, not even at that point. But this song gave me such a big sense of safety and security. And one thing about autistic people, or magical people, is that when we find a song that can like explain or touch our soul, it's the only song we need to listen to forever, right? But all this to say is I've been on a journey the past few days. A very deep, deep journey. And I'm very present with my ancestors. And for a long time, because of the way I was treated in my family, I've felt like such a bad person. And, you know, my marriage made me feel like a bad person too, because I just had so much embedded white supremacy in me. and had to do so much anti-racist work and so much decolonizing. And I think that process is continual. I don't think there's a place, but I finally, like, within the past 15 hours, finally feel like there's been a completion in my journey, and that I can move forward with this connection to earth, which is something I have never felt. Like I said, I've been a nomad, and I have connection to myself, but I finally feel like I understand where my soul resides. I know this is really deep. I appreciate you being here. And I hope that you have this peace. You can find this peace as well. I hope that I can learn more about the other branches in this tree. I want to go all the way back, but again, I don't know if my family will give me that information. The aunt that I did reach out to is the one who would more than likely give me that information out of anyone else. My uncle, definitely not. My uncle and my sister are best friends, so that would never work out. And my other aunt, I don't think she doesn't really have the capacity anymore. So anyway, I really hope that my aunt comes through and gives me this information. And if not, I will rely on my ancestors who are on the other side to give me this information in downloads. But if you're a white American specifically, and you have that feeling of, where the fuck do I come from? I hope you do everything you can to explore that, because it's not from here. You're not from here. This is not your land. And I hope that you can find the land that you do originate from, the land that resonates most with you. And I think it's just I really like watching Outlander because of the time concept as well. I think it's a really interesting thing. And then I'm very into, there's another show on which Netflix, if you're on my vibe, or if this is resonating, what is it, The Diary of Witches? That's a great show too. And I'm probably going to rewatch that show. Because I really like, I don't want to say ancient, because it's not ancient, but I like, older architecture, like those cobblestone, and I've always wondered why, right? Like when we went to Germany, we went to Heidelberg, Germany, and we saw castles and shit, and I just felt Heidelberg brought me a lot of peace, and I do have German ancestry on both sides as well. So I can explore that a little more. English on both sides, Scottish on one side, Welsh and Swiss, Switzerland. So anyway, now that Niall and I have our passports, we might be making a trip to Europe in the night. Well, we'll see what the climate like is in this country, if we can get out or not. But I definitely feel a calling to go there. And it's just a connection I can't explain. I finally feel like I have an idea of where I feel like home is. And this is probably why I like How to Train Your Dragon so much too. I love that movie. And I was always like, why? And like, Lord of the Rings, and I just love all of that stuff. Harry Potter. I've always had an inkling about my roots, but as you know, once you're in America, the lines of division are not ethnic, they're color-based. So, alright, I'm gonna let you go. I just wanted to get on here and let you know I'm on this journey, and it feels really good because this is something I've wanted to do for a really long time that I've, like I said, been held back from. So, you can try and hold me back, but I'm gonna figure my shit out. So, be happy. Have a good one.